Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and welcome to our path to the Amagi. Now, you guys know the deal by now. In this first episode, it's going to be a bit of a long intro because we are going to go over all of the different commanders that you can use in a build of your choice. But then I'm going to showcase the build that I actually use. Now let's get into the commander first. Oops, wrong button. We are running Takeo Takagi, and we will be for the entirety of this line. I prefer a dispersion build commander on my battleships. You guys know this, so that is what I run. We run Takeo Takagi with Andrew Cunningham and Azure Lane Scharnhorst as our commander inspirations. We are running Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, Marksmanship, and Reaching Out XXL. And we're running Will to Rebuild, of course. Okay. Other builds that you could use. The new build, obviously, is Arpeggio Haruna. They have I would use the same inspirations. If you wanted to buff secondaries, you could. Personally, I don't think you need to on the Japanese. They're not particularly suited to it because they don't have extended range. So the best you can hope for is like 7.5 kilometer range. So personally, I don't go that route, but I would run her because she's got some good stuff. She is a brawler build, so that's good. You can, as you can see, I've got her maxed out. Haruna with Andrew Cunningham and Scharnhorst again to help with the accuracy. Then we run her special perk, which is Floating Fortress, which reduces torpedo damage to your ship, as well as incoming damage to your citadel, which is massive on both sides. This would be particularly good for a Yamato, because it already has, what, 50% torp reduction, or 55% torp reduction? This would take it up to 61%. So, yeah, that's significant, okay? Anyway. Porcupine would be the second trait. Again, buffing the secondary is not the best thing, but honestly, the extra traverse speed on your guns isn't really needed on the Japanese battleships, so rather than just using this and not really getting much out of it, I decided to buff the secondaries. Firefighter, rather than on second thought, because I almost never switch shell types anyway. I'm almost always using AP. Firefighter's my better bet here. The only downside is they reduce the damage control party duration by 40%, which is not particularly good. Remember, that's the period of time that you're invulnerable to taking new floods and fires while your damage control is active. So you reduce that time by 40%. You do get 12% faster damage control party reload time, and a minus 12% risk of catching fire, so it's a toss-up, but personally, I'm not a big fan of the damage control party duration being cut down that much. It's not the 70% that you get with a dispersion build, but you know what I'm saying. Now, Master Mechanic obviously gives you those extra 2 heals when you've got it fully upgraded to level 16. And you also get those repair party reload time reduced and the amount of hit points recovered increased. So both good things there. Alright. And then we run the Will to Rebuild perk, obviously. Now, the third build that you could run is Nobutaki Kondo. I don't recommend this build. It's literally Haruna, except you don't get the special perk. So you end up taking an extra damage control perk, but personally, not a big fan. You can see I've played around a little bit. I used Hood here to reduce the torpedo damage. Funny enough, right? But yeah, personally, not a big fan of this. Your better bet, if you can get her, is Arpeggio Haruna, which I believe is available right now for picking up. So recommend it. Godzilla is the other one, I think. Is a battleship captain. Godzilla, I guess it gives you all of the dispersion bonuses, and does it give you... No, it gives you the emergency specialist. I was going to say, if it gives you Master Mechanic, this would definitely be the better build, because it also gives you Will to Rebuild. But no, this is just a standard dispersion commander. You get a couple bonuses, thick hide, risk of catching fire, but you're trading your dispersion for that. I don't think that's necessary. So you could go with that. Again, the inspirations that I would use would be the Andrew Cunningham and Azure Lane Scharnhorst. If you don't have Scharnhorst, maybe go with a William Sims for increased hit points. Something along those lines. But yeah, that's what I would do anyway, as far as commanders go. All right, so with that being said, let's look at the actual build that we've got. We are fully upgraded, and we are using Aiming Systems Mod 1 as our first equipment, because that's all we're allowed to use. And then we only get the one slot, so it makes sense to increase dispersion. So we've got our community contributor flag. We're running a Type 2 camo just for that extra incoming fire dispersion. Stats. Hit points is 45,700 with a 4% torpedo damage reduction. That comes down to the fact that the Ischizuchi is actually a battlecruiser. It's not really a battleship. Even though it's classified as a battleship in this game, it's actually a battlecruiser, which is why its armor is non-existent. Okay? Main batteries, you get 305mm guns. You get 10 of those. They are really decently accurate with a dispersion build. Firing range out to 15.3 kilometers isn't bad. Reload time in just 25 seconds is pretty nice. 180-degree turn time is 31 seconds. Again, showcasing that the 180-degree turn time on these, not bad at all. HE shell maximum damage 5,200 with a 32% chance to set fire, and a maximum AP shell damage of 8,800. Secondary armament, you get 152mm guns. You get 16 of those. That reach out to 3.7 kilometers and reload in 10 seconds. So again, not a particularly good ship to buff the secondaries on. AP shell damage is 2,900. They fire AP as well, the secondaries. So not particularly amazing secondaries. AA defense. You have 40mm Type 91s. You have 16 of those that do 63 damage per second and reach out to 2 kilometers. And then you've got a guy on the deck with a couple 76mm. I don't know. I guess that's, or 76mm. That's actually pretty large. That would be that would be flak, I'm assuming. So you've got 6 of those that do 10 damage per second and reach out to 3 kilometers. So AA defense basically non-existent. You'll see that in the video coming up too. Maximum speed of 24.8 knots, which is really, really good. I think it's top of the line for its tier for battleship. Could be wrong. I'm trying to go by memory, but I'm fairly confident this is the fastest ship at its tier. And I think that carries into the Congo as well, just due to the fact that they are not battleships. They are actual battle cruisers. But turning circles, pretty good at 740 meters, and the rudder shift at 14.2 is also pretty good. So the ship maneuvers really, really well. Concealment is actually really good for a battleship. 12.9 kilometers by sea, 10.3 by air, 2 is always guaranteed, and then 9.8 while firing in smoke. So very, very sneaky battleship. And remember, later on in the line, we'll be able to run that concealment system mod, so you get to maintain the sneaky battleship all the way through the line. Now, armor is where this ship struggles, okay? It's not the worst, but you'll see it does have a 76mm belt that goes all the way to the bow, though there is a little sliver that can be overmatched there in the front. But 76mm is plenty to keep you from being overmatched. Most people shoot at the waterline. So as long as you're angled decently, you're going to be fine. The trouble that you run into with these isn't necessarily through the front of the ship. It's actually through over-angling to fire your rear guns. When you do that, you expose the citadel at the back. Let me go ahead and show you guys. This got a very large citadel, and see the part that raises up right there? This ship especially is very, very bad about being citadeled when you're trying to fire those rear guns. So when you're angling out, you have to make sure that you are not going to be shot, because if they penetrate that upper armor, that upper plating, which is decent, but not amazing. If they penetrate that, they will citadel you. And it is a raised citadel. So keep that in mind. This is a fact that I've known for a long time. I didn't actually know it because of the armor viewer. I just knew it from shooting at them. If you catch an Ischizuchi or a Congo while they're firing their rear guns, you can absolutely smash them with citadels. And that little hump explains all the reasons why. So, nice little armor viewer fact that I didn't know. So, it's nice to be, confirmed once in a while. Alright, let's look at it. Fast. Above average maximum movement speed, which we already talked about. Compromising. Higher caliber AP shells may overpin the armor, but may still arm, depending on shell velocity. So this is what we were talking about. It doesn't have the best armor in the world, because it is a battle cruiser. So you've got to pick your fights and angle really, really well, and try to bait people into shooting the belt, rather than shooting up a little higher. Because again, if they get those shots while you're trying to get those rear guns involved, it can be devastating. Okay, Ischizuchi, one of the draft designs for a battle cruiser of the Imperial Japanese Navy that subsequently materialized as the Congo class. The ship had a high speed and impressive artillery. The arrangement of main turrets allowed her to fire a full broadside with all main battery guns. The known drawback of the ship's design was her very weak horizontal armor. The deck armor, not particularly good. And she was designed in 1909, but she was never built. She designed and ended up turning into the Congo class, so there you have that. But, that being said, let's take a look at her. She's not a bad-looking battle cruiser, battleship, whatever you want to call it, but she's actually a good-looking ship. And I really do like the Ischizuchi. The speed is nice. Being able to move around the battlefield, or the ocean, I guess. Being able to move around quickly, especially at low tiers in a battleship, is huge. And with this broadside, it's devastating for cruisers because it's lower caliber. It's 305 millimeters. And then on top of that, you get 10 guns, which is nice. And they are accurate, surprisingly. So with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Solomon Islands, and we are going to have the matchmaking of dreams for an Ischizuchi. Now, you'll see that we are top tier right off the bat, which is huge. And then on top of that, there's a lot of cruisers. Unfortunately, we're not going to get a chance to pick on a lot of those cruisers because we're going to spawn directly across from the enemy battleships. So we're going to get to showcase the Ischizuchi in a nice little fight with other battleships. Though the two guys that we go up against in the enemy battleships, not necessarily the smartest. And I'll go over why when we get into it. Now, that being said, we are going to push down this right side. Again, the strength of the Ischizuchi is the fact that it has speed. Speed is what you need. Speed is your friend. Greasy, fast speed. You know what I'm saying? When we get through with you, you're going to be eating lightning. You're going to crap thunder. If you know where that movie quote goes, the first one to answer it correctly, I'll pin you. Okay? If you know the movie that quote is from. But yeah, we're gonna show you guys just how fun this Ischizuchi can be. Now, I'll be real honest. I'm not looking forward to the next one because when I last played the Congo, I hated the Congo. So I'm not looking forward to the next video in this series. But Ischizuchi is a fun ship, and I quite enjoy the Ischizuchi. The only downside, like I said, is the fact that it is a bit weak in the armor department, so you've got to be careful. But it has fantastic firing angles, and you can see we're trying to get that Caledon. Like, anytime you see a Caledon or a Danae or any British cruiser really at low tiers, like, it's just begging for a freaking dev strike. So you're always looking for those opportunities. And you can see that I am doing the Dreadnought Shuffle, even in the Ischizuchi. Why? Because we already talked about it. Weak armor, relatively. But the funny thing here is we're trying to shoot at the Caledon again here because I know that I can absolutely mess this man up. And you only get lucky once usually against me, and that one showcases just why that is. But you're sailing angled to battleships, and you are being engaged as the front runner coming into this fight. So yeah, we're definitely going to be targeting you. Now, I'm being targeted by both the Ischizuchi and the enemy Wyoming. Ischizuchi giving me a beautiful angle here, so we're going to take that shot. Again, we're aiming towards the back of the ship, which we wouldn't normally do on most battleships, and this time we aim a little too far to the rear. That speed of the Ischizuchi catching you off guard a little bit. But the enemy Wyoming is actually going to spam HE for the entire match. And this pisses me off royally. I apologize for my language, but like, you have got to learn when and when not to use AP and HE. Most of the time in a battleship, you should be shooting AP. It is the best option. We just reached out and smashed that man for 14,000 damage. Meanwhile, he's tickled us with like 3 salvos of HE. Has yet to set a fire, and he does basically nothing out of it. What do you get? 5k out of that salvo? And he has a lot of guns too. And he has American armor piercing, which has the improved penetration angles. Like, has all the things going for him, and he's shooting HE. Meanwhile, the Ischizuchi is trying to get out of here. He's like, screw this. Like, I've already seen how this one ends. Spartan's over here. We got to get out of here. Now, I don't know if he knows me or not, but still. Low tiers just isn't much of a fight for me, to be honest. Most people don't know what they're doing. Of course, that doesn't change much at high tiers either, but most people at low tiers have no idea what they're doing. And so it just ends up being a raffle stomp more often than not. But it gives me a chance to showcase these guys, or these ships, pretty well. And how I personally use them. So, anyway, you see the Ischizuchi going for our cruiser. Our cruiser gets his torpedoes off very, very early. But we're going to try to save our cruiser and see if we can't smash this Ischizuchi while he's giving us a beautiful shot. And this one looks much, much better, but he started turning in, so we actually end up overpinning and overshooting a little bit. Because he starts going directly at our cruiser. And that actually saves him from the initial torpedoes, but again, the cruiser turns her all the way back around. He's going to get torpedoes off the other side. Here you can see the turning of the ship, allowing us to only take 1 torpedo there, which is huge. Now, Ischizuchi takes a pretty nasty hit from the torpedoes from the cruiser, but he does get rid of our cruiser, unfortunately. Now, we're going to try to go for the superstructure. Now, here's the thing. Unlike American and German battleships, the Japanese battleships do not suffer from increased hit points to the superstructure. Meaning the superstructure gets saturated very, very quickly and allows the battleship to be a little more tanky when bow tanking. So keep that in mind. Now, we're trying to get rid of the Ischizuchi because he's pretty low. Svetlana actually ends up getting the kill, I believe. Or no, Arkansas actually gets the kill. Now, we were getting here into the cap. We need to try to capture this base if we can. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out in our favor. V-170 gets spotted early by our torpedo bombers, and then he's going to go undetected because our guy just drops on him. This is something that carrier players need to learn. I understand that you want to try to attack the guy, but when you have people ready to shoot them, you have got to understand and keep them lit up rather than going for the damage. As you can see, I basically one-shot the guy. He had no health left. Of course, you know, in true Spartan fashion, we got to leave him with just enough to get away. Luckily, Langley comes in and is able to drop and gets a bomb hit on him and kills him. So that's huge for our team, gets rid of their destroyer. And now it is a 5v3. Each team has a cap, so I'm not particularly worried about capping at this point. And so we're going to go out here and take on this Wyoming. Now, Wyoming has already lost most of his hit points. He is trying to do the Dreadnought Shuffle, even though he's not particularly good at it. And here we're going to showcase why American and German battleships having that extra hit points in the superstructure is bad for your health. Late in the game like this, he has very little health, and we're going to try to exploit that superstructure, and we get nice 4,400 damage. 3 full penetrations. He's lucky to not have been removed right there. I'm assuming he's already had his superstructure punched a couple times, and that was just the saturation hit. But here we see the carrier for the first time. The carrier's been harassing me for the entire game. We've had both battleships shooting at me. We had the torpedo boat come after us, but he actually went for the other guy. We managed to hit the Wyoming pretty good there, and the Wyoming at this point just gives up. He just straight gives up. So we're going to go ahead and, give him what he wants, which is to finish him off. He's basically full broadside at this point. He's just sailing around. He's gave up trying to angle. He gets a shot off, and once again, it's HE. It's no threat to me whatsoever. We finish him off. That gives us our high caliber. We take one, and again, we're able to dodge the second torpedo. And all of these single dodges that we're getting is huge. Now, the next drop that he makes is kind of weird. I'm assuming they're coming from my right, so I start turning in to try to make them not arm or whatever. But those torpedo bombers look like they came through my bow and somehow managed to drop off my right side. It was weird. It was real weird. But is what it is. You can see I'm starting to spam I need intelligence data because I need somebody to spot this freaking carrier. Our carrier's been so preoccupied trying to help our cruisers, which they had one little cruiser to fight between the two of them, that he's not really helping me spot this carrier. Now, we get very fortunate there. We're able to turn in enough to keep that one from arming. He drops a little bit late. And this carrier is going to be an absolute gigantic pain in my neck. Remember, we don't have the best AA in the world. We've been shot with HE for the entire game, so our AA is even worse than it would be. We are still shooting down planes, but at the end of the day, it's going to be difficult for us to actually get any closer to this freaking carrier. But luckily for us, carrier's actually coming towards us. We're headed towards him at a decent pace, but we're having to zigzag like a mother, trying to avoid all of the damage that he's given us. And here, I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling pretty good. I'm like, finally, we've got this guy spotted. We're gonna be able to do some damage here and get rid of this man. But unfortunately, low-tier carriers are almost impossible to citadel with battleships. It's just a freaking obnoxious task to try to citadel a low-tier carrier with a battleship. Even with only 305mm guns, we just overpin constantly. But again, we're zigzagging, like we're doing everything in our power to try to save our bacon here. We just used our damage control. We know we have 3,700 hit points. This man has removed all of our health at this point. And so he actually turns away, which is good for us because we overmatch him. We're going to be able to punch through, and you can see we're getting much more damage out of him like that. But then he's going to turn out again, and unfortunately, it's going to open the angle back up. We are going to try to make sure that we're getting those shots while he's angled because, again, those give us full penetrations rather than overpins. And we're going to do as much damage to this man as possible. We're down to 599 hit points and a dream at this point. And all it's going to take is one good freaking drop, and he's going to kill us. But you can see, unfortunately for him, RNG is not having it. He drops his freaking bombs and misses. And our dodging and weaving is coming in handy. And then RNG immediately repays the favor to him by not allowing me to kill him right there. That should have been a kill for me. But Svetlana ends up getting his Kraken, so well done to him. We did everything we could in this one and had a pretty solid game. 98,000 damage, Dreadnought, First Blood, Dev Strike, High Caliber, top of the leaderboard. What was it, 1,800 base XP? So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.